Hello. I'm happy to be with you guys today. Today is Monday, August 23rd, and we're talking about Friday. I got this idea, like I really wanted to do a conjoined podcast episode with one of my really good friends that I got to visit this past weekend. And we were just talking a lot about navigating the changes in relationships and how that's looked for us and how challenging it could be, and how friendships, even if someone talks to you about possibly navigating intimate relationships, which is, we all know, doesn't happen very often. Talking to you about managing friendships is a whole different thing. So I wanted to come today to talk briefly about managing and navigating friendships, because they're so challenging. And even when you have really good friends and things change, it can get awkward. Maybe you don't want to be friends anymore. But how do you navigate all that? Because it can be stressful, and ain't nobody got time for that. So today we're going to be talking about navigating friendships, and essentially navigating the change specifically. So I'll start with example. And please, as y'all are in here, tag a friend, tag a friend, tag a friend, share the live. Um, Make sure, if you don't catch it, you can catch it on my YouTube page at the Barefoot Therapist on YouTube. I'm going live from Instagram. So make sure that y'all tune in there. Follow me on Instagram if you have not. And we'll talk about the other stuff coming up. So let's get started. So, one of the most integral relationships, important, valuable relationships that we will ever have are our friendships. Not just clearly as an adult, but as a child. Our peer groups are so important. The people that we allow to consume our space and energy, are our friends. We spend so much time around other people, specifically our peers, and learning how to navigate those relationships is so important. Do I think that we're regularly taught how to navigate those relationships? No. Do I think that we should be? 100%. Because those relationships take up a lot of our time, energy, and love, right? I think of when I started elementary school, I remember my first friend being a gentleman named Tabari, and how important he was in my experience in school, and just being a person like outside of my mom and dad and sisters who got me and was super cool, and their family was super nice, and I got somewhere to somebody to hang out with, and came to all my birthday parties. And it just, that was my crowd. Like, someone who valued me, who accepted me, who listened to me, who made the world seem a little bit more digestible and reasonable, with their support. So, all of what that friendship did for me, I'm sure we would have never thought of as little kids. But it was so, so, so important to me. And I think of friendships in that way. They are an extension of family, and sometimes can be even more valuable in spaces. I think about how much time we spent at school for what, freaking 17 years, from the time that we start, maybe a little less than that, a time that we start pre-K to graduating as a 12th grader. We're not talking about if you skipped or was held back or anything like that, right? Graduated early, that kind of stuff. But the amount of time that you spend with your peers outside of your home is invaluable, just like the time that we spend in our working space now as adults versus what it looked like when we were in school. It's about the same amount of time, right? We may be at school from what, 7 in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 7:15, 7:30, etc., till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a lot of our day, where we learn about things. Heck, I never forget, I learned about shaving from one of my friends at school. Like, she was just telling me how she learned how to shave her legs. And I was like, what? This is a thing? Like, that's not something my mom taught me. So she was telling me what to do, what tools I needed. And she showed me how to she shaved her legs. And I was like, what? Like, blew my world up. All of the things that I learned about myself and about the world through my peer relationships and my friendships were invaluable, especially now as an adult and being able to look back on that. How valuable those relationships are to how we view ourselves is really, really important. So when we talk about building these relationships over time, and I think relationships that we've had for an extended amount of time, so people we might have met in like elementary, high school, junior high, as a young adult, and then we're growing, being prepared for those changes. We're not always being able to navigate the changes, like how we were friends when we went to elementary school or middle school is definitely going to look different in our 20s. It's definitely going to look different in our 30s. Space and time, maybe we moved out of the city, maybe we moved out of the state. Maybe you have a family, like you have a spouse and kids, and I don't. Maybe I'm single. Maybe I'm a single parent and you're not. Maybe we both have families that are interested in two very different things. Maybe our interests have changed. How do we navigate those relationships with all of those things happening? How do we navigate relationships when we don't confront each other, or challenge each other in moments where we feel devalued or disrespected? Do we have that kind of relationship? Do we feel safe enough to say those things to each other? All of those things matter. It matters when we have invested in something, especially a relationship, and however we set it up or how we navigated the changes in the dynamics is super important. I think of some of the relationships that I have had in elementary school, middle school, high school. I don't have anymore. Like, I don't speak to them. There's no hard feelings, but the relationship doesn't exist. Or like friendships I made in college of people that we were thick as thieves in these spaces, and they don't exist anymore. Or and here's the or, and this is the part we're going to talk heavily about today. The or is hey y'all, thank you for listening in. The or is we still have these relationships, but they're different. And it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Either we're friends or we're not. I find that a lot of folks work in extremes. Either we're BFFs and we're close or we're not. Listen, friendships there's so much gray area, right, in life, but especially in relationships. Well, you may not be thick as thieves, but you may be the person. I may talk to you once a year. I may talk to you every couple of months, and we check in it with a text. If I'm in the city, maybe I check in with you and we get together for lunch or drinks or something. Maybe if something's important that's going on in your life, and you may invite me, or vice versa. You know, maybe you transition into a space in your life where we have more in common, so we speak more. Like, all of those things matter, right? Maybe there was an experience that happened recently that caught us back up and got us back together. All of those things matter, but the investment is up to us individually. And we also have to be clear that, yes, it is a two-way street. No one wants to feel completely invested in something and the other person is not, right? Or to feel that rejection of, oh, I'm invested, but you don't seem interested in spending time with me or talking to me. But it is not all or nothing, you guys. There is room to navigate this. And one of the most important things is to talk about the change. Like, hey, and for all of y'all that know me, I am very sensitive. I'm very eclectic. I'm also very intuitive of my feelings and my energy and the energy I get from others. So I will say, hey, what's going on with this? What's happening? And I will say, like, one of the things that I also recognized about myself was someone who I was super close with, or that I identified as a really close friend or even a best friend. I struggled with the change, and I had to question myself as to, why are you struggling so much with change that comes naturally? It's natural. There's no hard feelings, there's no beef, there's no issue. Like, why are you struggling so hard with navigating these changes? Why are you trying to hold on to this that y'all had so hard? And I said, I think there is a comfort that comes in being in this space with people. Oh, we were best friends for 3, 4, 5 years, or whatever the time frame was, or we were super close and we spent all this time together. Why is that not happening now? Like, why do we not talk a lot? Like, why do we not spend a lot of time together? Not recognizing that things have changed for both of us, right? And if not both of us, one of us, significantly enough that we've had to shift or redirect our relationship in some different ways, do some different things. And that's okay. I think sometimes what happens is we don't talk about it. And as it happens, we see it happening and we feel it happening, and we don't know what to do about it. And so we get into this, it's eventually this space of like, so you want to be friends with me? So this is what we're talking about. So this is what we're doing. And it's like, no, no. Not that they don't want to be friends. They just have other things going on. They need to they needed to reinvest in some other areas. Maybe they've gotten some friends that are more closely related to what they have going on right now, and that's okay. Maybe they started a new job and they have work friends. Like, being able to come back to the table and say, okay, things are changing in our relationship. How do we need to adjust? And it's okay to have those conversations with your friends. Sometimes conversations don't need to be had. Sometimes relationships were for a season, and that is okay. It's okay if someone was such an awesome friend, the party friend, the vacation friend, that you hang out with me and my family friend, the friend who is all about business and work and you can throw ideas off of, the friend who loves kids and y'all's kids hang out together, or you hang out, they come and they're the godparents of your kid. All of those things, right? It can all change, and it's okay. Show this too. Let's see if I can show it. How do I show this? Hold on, I'm trying to. Okay. Um, that if they give a yes, hold on, I want to show this comment. Also, accept the answer that they give if you do ask. 100%. So, y'all, listen. I love that you said that. Being able to articulate your feelings is a gift, it's a skill that you can build or not on. Accepting what is doesn't mean that you have to agree, but accepting what is super important. Also understanding that in our relationships there are roles, right? You may have some friends that are very communicative and they call and they like to talk on the phone and like to do that thing. You may be the person that likes to text, check in. You're communicative that way. Maybe you like to spend time together. Like, I am a spend time together kind of gal. Like, there were, and I realized this after the fact. A lot of my friends, I don't spend a lot of time on the phone. Friends, as in over time, I didn't spend a lot of time on the phone with. Like, I was talking to one of my friends this weekend, and I realized we didn't spend a lot of time on the phone. I am a be in your space kind of gal, so I can just go over your house and we don't even have to talk a lot. I just want to be over there with you. Maybe we'll talk a little bit. Maybe we'll have game night. Maybe we'll go eat together. Maybe I'll cook, which is something I love to do. I love to cook. I love to feed people I love. That is a part of my love language and love sharing. um but talking on the phone and texting all the time, it's just not my thing, and I didn't realize that till later on. One of my friends, her daughter, I will never forget, asked me, she said, do you just come over here to eat and sleep or like lay down? And I said, you know what? I do. I do. You know that was your baby I'm talking about. I will never forget it. Kaden asked me that. She's like, do you just come over here to like eat and sleep and lay down? Yes, I do. But I think the whole value to that for me was I was in a space that I felt loved and with people that I love. And that was good enough for me. We didn't have to go to the club. We didn't have to, go hang out and do stuff all the time. It was really about like comfortable, yes, comfortable and feeling comfortable and valued and supported and just like it was a vibe. Like we could watch TV together, or we could go out to eat, or we could go have game night, or we could do whatever, but it was just being in the company of good friends. And it didn't have to be about, because we didn't talk on the phone like a whole heck of a lot at all. But we saw each other a lot, and it was genuine, and it was authentic. So I think that's really what's valuable is, one, considering the role of your friendship. Like some friendships are not meant to cross over into other categories. Sometimes we try to put people in spaces of our lives that they don't belong, and that's not on them, that's on us. Sometimes I think that we want people to be something, or we expect them to be, well, if so and so does this for me, then you should be able to do this for me. Or if so and so, we interact this way, then you should be able to interact this way. If so and so could communicate with me this way, then you should be able to communicate with me this way. And that does not work. It's not going to work. Our relationships are individual in that way. People, like, being able to reasonably assess who they are and accept that and be able to function with them in a way that works for both of you is a skill that's really, really helpful. Like having, like I said, the party friend, or the friend that y'all like to go do like hobby things together, or the friend that is really focused on or growth, personal growth, and self investment, and all of that. You have friends that serve different purposes. How do you know when the change is coming? I want to post this question to the group. Question number 1: how do you know there has been how do you know the relationship has changed? Can y'all answer that for me? I want to pose this to the audience. I'm gonna have it scroll. How do you know the relationship has changed? And I'm also on Instagram too, so I'm in both places. How do you know the relationships has changed? Please put it in the comments. What relationships have y'all had where there has been a change? Have you noticed there's a change? How did you know that your relationship with your friend has changed? And we'll get to the ands, but let's start with that. How did you know your relationship would change? Not would change, changed. And how did y'all navigate that? As y'all are putting in, your perspectives, behavior changes, communication changes, for sure. Awesome. Behavior changes and communication changes, 100%. Now, when these things happen, did you address the friend? Like, did you say, hey, like, I noticed we haven't been talking much, like, or you see that they've got a lot of stuff going on, or you see that they have, changed in a way that doesn't really reconcile well with you? Like, how do you navigate that? Okay. I'll say to you guys, like, if it's a change that you don't reconcile with, you can or cannot say something. I think the thing is, I think it depends on how invested you are in the relationship. Every friendship doesn't necessarily need a talk. I love talks, especially people I'm super close with. I just want to make sure we're always on the second page. And again, I'm very like intuitive, and the vibe and energy really has an impact on me. So I like to, address that. I was okay. So Instagram, you start seeing a change in your dynamic, lots of miscommunication, sometimes resentment or hurt feelings. I gave it space. Then I said, hey, girl, you're not getting rid of me that easy. I love that. I love that. Because this is the thing, y'all. There are some dynamics. Oh, okay. Early on, I would walk away from it, but now I try to address it. That's awesome. Y'all, just know just like relationships, friendships can be really challenging to navigate because they're similar in that, like, you have to assess how valuable the relationship is to determine how invested you are and how much you're willing to do. But I think sometimes we got to give people the benefit of the doubt to consider that one, it's not intentional. Two, maybe they have some ish going on. Three, like, are we perceiving something based on something that's going on with us? And also, again, how invested are we in the relationship? Ask and accepted the response and then let it go. The institution was still very strong, but I hear that. And you know what? I'm going to say too, it's okay to grieve friendships, you guys. Like, just like we would grieve any other invaluable relationship, it's okay to grieve those friendships because they're valuable to us. I can't tell you how many folks I've worked with and supported them, and just being able to identify that they were grieving something that they were comfortable with, that they were used to. One of the things I'll share is, like, when I moved from Monroe, Louisiana to Virginia, I really struggled and grieved those relationships that I had there with some of the most beautiful women that we were like super tight with. Um, and it really was an environmental change. We spent a lot of time together. So when that part is taken away, of course, that impacts our relationship, and that we can't spend so much time together. But there's no love loss. There's, beauty and change, that we try to check in with each other, and just being able to be okay with that, but also grieving that, dang, I miss my friends. Like, I miss the time, I miss the energy, I miss the love. Being able to grieve those things is absolutely okay. Understanding that people may not be in the space that you are with them, or maybe you thought they were with you. And as Connie said, being able to ask and accept the answer, and then being able to make an appropriate or choice from there on how to move forward. Sometimes do we have to let relationships go? Yes, especially when they don't serve us in a way that's productive anymore. Y'all, I can't tell y'all, how many friends in high school I had that I did not have in college. And I struggled with letting them go because I was like, nah, we good. We're tight. We used to hang, about my life, like, as a teenager, and like coming up to this point. But also what I recognize is the things that we used to share in common are no longer. The reasons why we connected are no longer. They're in a space that I don't function in anymore, and that's okay. Being able to still, love people from a distance and say, yo, you are a dope person, and I just know we don't have that kind of relationship anymore. But if I see you and say, hey, what it do, or how you been, or check in, when I see you, or people, checking in on Facebook every blue moon or green moon, every few years or something. That's okay. And maybe we never speak again. Um, and that's okay too. Like, the grieving part, I think, is one of the most important. Communicating is most important, and being self-aware is also really important. Being aware of how much you're willing to invest and how invested you actually were, what purpose these relationships served in your life, and heck, and theirs even too. Maybe it was super temporary. And because I can think of relationships that we were thick as thieves for a short, like, sprint of a time, and then we weren't, right? um And it was okay. And it was like, dang, that you were dope like during that time. And I just realized now that we wouldn't be friends that way. And that's okay too. Like you were dope as crap though during that time where we worked for each other, if that makes sense. Another, and I can't put it on the screen because it's on Instagram, so I'm gonna read it. Also learning to acknowledge that maybe I failed to see my friend in the need or hurting because I was going through my own stuff. Learning to be present and see my outside junk. Yes. Awareness, awareness, awareness. A lot of times I think we've done all we can do. And my husband really did a great job with getting me all the way together recently. Um, but thinking we did all that we can do, and sometimes we have not. Having to be able to take accountability for ourselves, our participation, our role, and being able to circle back and say, yo, like, I could have done more. What did you need from me? How can I show up for you now? I'm sorry for not showing up then. Is really important. And it can be really, really hard because sometimes the relationship is already over. Sometimes you have time to salvage it, but sometimes you don't. And that can be hard to navigate as well, considering that, like I said, and I completely stand behind, our friendships are some of the most valuable relationships that challenge us, that feed us, that nurture us, that educate us. And it's really, really important to be clear on what we can and can't do in those relationships. Also to be clear on like what we need, because this is a thing, y'all. I think sometimes we assume that our friends know what we need or what our love languages are and how we communicate that way, and they don't. They do their best just like we do our best, but being able to say it out loud gives them a better advantage of meeting our needs and vice versa. One of the other things I will say is, which I think is going to be a whole nother live, but navigating relationships as an adult, making new friends. Yo, I don't know about you guys, but like for me, making friends as an adult is a whole thing. It is a whole thing. As adults, we've had so many influential experiences that I think it impedes our ability to go into it as what do they call innocently, um as we were before. And I think we were more willing to give people a chance. And so now that we're in a space as adults, we have a very different way of attacking, like meeting friends and giving people an opportunity and being vulnerable and all those things. So not for nothing, today hopefully you took away some jewels. Hopefully you got some ideas around how to navigate relationships, the change specifically in your relationships, how to navigate those a little bit differently or more productively. Please, please, please. Oh, I have a special something for y'all today. So, one of my babies that are coming out soon, my new journal, keeping my shit together journal. It will be coming out hopefully in October. That is my goal. I still obviously have edits upon edits. But you can pre-order now. Don't forget to share the lives with your friends. If you have ideas about topics you want me to cover, please don't forget to send those to me. Put them in the comments, send them to my message or send them through Messenger. But don't forget to share, tag a friend. And I love being here with y'all. I love the opportunity to talk through some of these things. And I appreciate everything y'all share and y'all showing up. So have a beautiful day. Peace out.